right. We're getting into Old Testament history today. So let's get right after it because it's a long reading today. If you look, we are Joshua 1 through 5. Um, I'll just give you this suggestion. I'm doing it in a particular order and matching these, but if you, as you're going along, say, Tuesdays is just too busy of a day for me to read the long sections and you want to move that to another day, do that. If you look ahead, you'll notice um, that Friday is 6 chapters of Isaiah. That is the longest readings are going to be on Fridays. That works well for me. That may not work well for you. So if you're doing this on your own, feel free to rearrange it, watch them on the different days, plan that out. If you're like, I'm going to do two of them today and I'll do two tomorrow or any of that kind of thing. Somebody had suggested, well, why don't you take a day off from doing this? Well, if I were to do that, I would probably combine poetry and psalms, and so that would double up me there. Or I would read gospel and epistle, and that would double up there. I would not probably do history or prophets and double them up. Those would be the 2 days I would refrain from doing that. So let's jump right into this. And because it's going to be long, I'm going to make a few comments as we read it rather than read a whole section because I don't want us to keep in the back of our mind and remember things. I'm going to switch from what I have been doing of read the whole chapter and then comment to try to keep my comments lower. I'll try to make fewer comments, but I'll make them as we go because I think those are going to be important or helpful to do them then, and I'll do fewer of them, hopefully. All right. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am going to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will be extended from the desert of Lebanon and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I'm going to just stop there. 2 reasons why. One, if you were with us and you read through Psalm, you should be hearing the idea. Keep this book of the law on your lips, meditate on it day and night, so that you'll be careful to do everything written in it. That should be ringing up. Oh, that sounds very, very similar to Psalm 1, that the righteous meditate on God's word day and night, and boom, it's here. I think the psalmist took it from Joshua and is recounting that as where he is going to start. His wisdom is from there. So that's one thing to say. The other thing is people often, and I've heard many sermons. In fact, in the last year, I've probably heard more sermons on Joshua 1 than I have in a long time. And they keep talking about Well, Joshua was discouraged. That's why God keeps telling him, be strong and courageous, because Joshua was discouraged. I have a serious problem with that thought. Joshua and Caleb were the two that when they went in to spy out the land, they said, let's go get him. I don't think he's now not courageous. This is not the message that Joshua needs to hear. It is the message Joshua is telling the people through God's words to him. Joshua is not the one with the issue of being strong and courageous. The people are. God, if you look at, he's laying out the promises he's given to Moses, the same ones that the people said, we're not going into the land, even though we have God's promises. So what is God doing now? He's telling the people through Joshua, be strong and courageous. By what? Telling Joshua to be strong and courageous. Not because Joshua needs it. The people do. Let me put it a different way. Does your mother or someone you know, or maybe you do this, every time your kids leave the house, or every time you leave the house, if you live with your parents, here, drive safe? Is there any thought that you didn't need to or weren't planning to drive safe? No. What is it that your mother or is doing when she says it, or you as a mother do when you're saying it? You are speaking into existence and conferring upon the person your wishes. It doesn't mean that the person is a reckless person and you're telling them to drive safe, because every other time they've left the house, they've been driving reckless for 20 years, and now you suddenly think, I'm going to tell you to drive safe so you'll change your behavior. No. 100 times no. So if God is telling Joshua to be strong and courageous, has Joshua been worried and, oh my goodness, we just can't conquer the land? No, he was one that said, let's go get him now. I'm sorry, I just get bothered when people take words of encouragement to mean literally that somebody is the opposite of what the words of encouragement are. Drive safe is not because someone's reckless. It's because your wishes for them are being made known. Joshua is not hearing, be strong and courageous, because he's a worrywart. No, he's being told strong and courageous. Why? Because God is with him, even if the people aren't. Oh, never thought of that one, did you? Okay, my rant is over. Let's get on with the reading. So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready. 3 days from now we will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own. Sounds like what he wanted to do 40 years ago. But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the commandment that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, the Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. Your wives, your children, and your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan, but all your fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you, and until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise. And now we're jumping into Joshua. We haven't read that in the law yet, so it's going to be a while before we get there. So there are tribes that decided they didn't want to cross the Jordan. Well, this is going to be work. So we'll just take the land that we just conquered here. Can we just stay here? But notice what they have to do for that exchange of already being settled. The fighters that are their fighters get to go first into battle. Why? Because the men in the other tribes have their women and children with them that they need to protect, so they need to be conscious of that, and these are just strictly fighters going ahead to fight. They get to go first. Then they answered Joshua, whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will fully obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Oh, is this because Joshua's not strong and courageous? The people now have to tell him no. These are words for the crowd to hear. The group who are not strong and courageous. Who would that be? The Israelites who didn't want to go into the land 40 years ago, and now the descendants are going in the land. They're the ones that need to hear it. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. Boom! Boom! You should be connecting already. We read the genealogy of Jesus a few days ago that had Rahab. Now we're going to read the story of Rahab. See the blessing that comes from this style of Bible reading, of going through. I'll just leave it there. Hopefully you agree with me. So they end up at at Rahab's house. The king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent these messengers to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. There's a good network of tattletales, I'm just going to say, in this city. But the women had taken the 2 men and hidden them. The woman, not the women, sorry. She said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gates, they left. I didn't know which way they went. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them. How do you know to catch up if you don't know which way? Okay. But she had taken them on the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt. That was 40 years ago. And what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. So she hears the deeds of God, and she wants to know that God. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother and my brothers and sisters and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land. So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, go to the hills so that your pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. Love the details of the instructions that she gives. She just says, I don't know where they went when they left. The pursuers leave. She notices where they go. She now lets the men out, tells them to go in a different direction. Wait for them to come back, and then you can make your escape, because they'll stop looking for you. How does she know 3 days? I don't know, but that's pretty wise. Maybe she's seen this before. She lives in the wall. Now the men had said to her, this oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless, when we enter land, you have tied this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. And unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family into the house, if any of them go outside your house into the streets, their blood will be on their heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell them what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear. Agreed, she replied. Let it be as you say. So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied a scarlet cord in the window. We're not going to be connecting to this passage, but I hope some of this imagery and language connected to the Passover, that you see that. The scarlet, why? Well, what color would blood be? I think scarlet's the best description of the color of blood. And how would the Israelites have done this in Egypt? They put it on the doorposts of their house. Well, her house is in the wall. How do you put the scarlet on? By putting a rope down the escape window. And what was it said in Egypt? Who was spared? Only those in the house that had the mark on them. So how is the guarantee to be? They're to be in the house. Your mother, your brother, your sisters, whoever's in the house, they're the ones spared. Not anyone outside it. We're not sparing them if they're not in the house. The house with the marking is how you're spared. So I just wanted to point that out. I think it's a fascinating connection that there's a Passover that's redeeming and saving those who are inside, the same way that the people coming out of Egypt were saved. All right, so let's keep going. When they left, they went into the hill country and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the two men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua, son of Nun, and told him everything that had happened to them. Then they said to Joshua, the Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us. Interesting connection here. The two spies, when they come back, what do they report? Well, this is easy. We're going to do it. 40 years earlier, how many spies said, yeah, this is great. We're going to do it. This is easy. Let's get going. Two. Two went before, did it. Great. Two went this time. Yes, let's go. We're ready to go. Cool kind of connection. So a little vindication there, in some sense of Joshua. Two said, yes, let's go. Now two say, yes, let's go. Obviously, first time there were 12 sent. Now there's only two. We'll skip the 10 that are going to say no. We're going to spend the two that just say yes. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what happened. Not that he planned to send 10 others, but he didn't. And so only two said yes. All right, chapter 3. I think we're doing okay for time. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Sittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people, when you see the Ark of the Covenant and of the Lord your God and the Levitical priest carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things above you. Joshua said to the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. So you notice the jump here. We went 3 days ahead of time, tomorrow, and boom, now we're starting. The Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all of Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priest who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's water, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe, and as soon as the priests carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, the rivers flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. I like the language there. Going to notice that in a heap, not they disappeared and they stopped flowing. They're going to stand up in a heap. This is also at springtime, possible flooding, the Jordan at its highest point throughout the year, all those kinds of things. So fascinating things. There's also people should be making the connection here of the sea being stopped up, of the Red Sea being stopped up. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Okay, let's mention that. So this is the spring harvest. Yet as soon as the priest who carried the Ark reached the Jordan and their foot touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam, in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the sea of the Araba, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completely crossed on dry ground. When the whole nation had finished, here again, bad break. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with them and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God in the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of the tribes of Israel. Okay, a stone on your shoulder. This means it's big, not a tiny little thing. To serve as a sign among you in the future when your children ask, what does this stone mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crosses the Jordan, the water of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, carrying according to the number of the tribes of Israel, as the Lord had told Joshua. And they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at that spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. Love that. They're making an Ebenezer. Don't have time to go into that now. Now the priest who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side. While the people watched, the men of Reuben, Gad, and the half of Manasseh crossed over ready for battle in front of the Israelites as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. This is one of the things that happened throughout the the Bible is a feat happens with one leader and then it's duplicated with other leaders. So here we have a duplication of the crossing of the Red Sea and God parting the water, and that's signifying God's leader is leading his people where they need to go. And here Joshua, the river parts, not the sea. And so that's a duplication. If we get into Acts, we'll see a duplication of what Peter does and Paul does later. There's a duplication thing. So God does this often with leadership. Then the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant law to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests come up out of the Jordan, and the priests came up out of the river carrying the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their foot on dry ground and the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones that had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what did these stones mean? Tell them Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground, for the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what had been done to the Red Sea when it dried up before us until we had crossed. He did this so that all the people of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. This is great, and yet it doesn't end up being something that the people focus on and remember. Now, when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeon Haraloth. Whew, that was a tough one. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until the men who were military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised to their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. We don't read it here, but there are descriptions other places of when groups would do this, how weak they were and how they struggled for days. So they are now vulnerable, but they are trusting God to protect them while they're healing. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you, so the place has been called Gilgal to this day. If I had it ready to go, I'd go look up Gilgal. I'm going to make that suggestion if you want to go to Blue Letter Bible and look up Gilgal. It'd take me a while to find the right verse. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread, and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate the food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate from the produce of Canaan. Wow, 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 wow. I did not remember the Passover celebrated here. I was pointing to the Passover earlier. Here they're celebrating the Passover right before they go into the land. They've just, if you want to recall this, they have the Passover to exit Egypt. They have the Passover to enter into the land. Fascinating connection there. They have the manna in the desert, God providing for them. Now that the land is theirs, they're no longer in need of that. So cool. We're almost done. Now, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" Fascinating. Goes up to the man standing. "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are is holy ground." And Joshua did so. All right, take off your sandals, for the place where you are is holy ground. Burning bush should be coming to mind where you thinking of this. So he sees a man holding a sword. He approaches him. He finds out it's a servant of the Lord. He asks, "What do I need to do?" "Take off your sandals. You're in holy ground." And now we have to wait a week to find out what happens next. But here's all the prep. We focus on the marching around the city, which we'll get to. But look at all of this stuff that's in preparation of the modeling after Moses to Joshua taking place, the bringing of the let me give you a different image here to hopefully connect you. We're familiar with Peter denying Jesus 3 times, and then Peter being restored when Jesus asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" Here we have within this passage the restoring of the people of Israel, because they had rejected going into the land, and now they're being redeemed from that. In verse 9, it says, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." That's essentially what Peter has, the restoration of Peter. Here we have the restoration of Israel, the reproach that they had for denying that God was powerful enough to defeat their enemies. It's redeemed. The reproach is gone, and now God is going to lead them into the land. All right. Like I said, go look up Gilgal. I'm going to look up as soon as I'm done here. It's just going to take me too long to do it on camera. So, yeah, we'll look at this in another week and pick up the story. And hopefully, you're getting all these connections as we're weaving the story from different places in the Bible all together. And hope to see you again back here tomorrow.